It is Will Cain Country, streaming live at the Will Cain Country YouTube channel, the Will Cain Facebook page, but always available by following us on Apple or on Spotify. Speaking of Spotify, Wrapped, out for 2025, the annual collection of your listening habits put into a nice little produced form that shows you who you listen to, what you listen to, and your listening age is out. It's called Wrapped. It is on Spotify, and it tells you something about yourself. It tells you something about the Willisha. I want to start with a thank you to all of you who have in your Wrapped Will Cain Country. I want to start out by thanking people like Brandon Gilbert. Brandon Gilbert messaged me this morning and said, I'm in the top 3%. Brandon has listened to 5,463 minutes of Will Cain Country. And one of my favorite things about this message from Brandon is he doesn't always think I'm right. He doesn't always agree. Brandon, whose profile says Dallas raised, or Dallas born, Seattle raised, but always with God, messaged me, and I hope he doesn't mind me sharing this message this morning. But there's a whole lot of windshield time on some work trips. Thanks for keeping me informed and entertained for over 5,000 minutes. Thank you, Brandon, for being a member of the Willisha. Speaking of the Spotify Wrapped, the crew and I were playing a little game this morning as it came out. It says to you what your listening age might be. It takes into account your music, your podcasts. It then gives an estimation of how old you are. Want to know how old I am? Well, according to Spotify, I am 60. Why am I 60? Because you like early 80s. Specifically, you like, Will, early 80s country music. And that's reflected, by the way, in my number one artist of the year, which, somewhat surprisingly to me, came in as the king, George Strait. My top artist of the year. And just for a little bit more flesh on these bones, I thought I'd share this with Tinfoil Pat and Two-A-Days Dan. These are my top 5 songs of the year. And I'm curious of the top 5, how many you've heard of. Okay, let's go to Tinfoil Pat and Two-A-Days Dan for a quick vote. I'm going to go through this quickly, so just give me a yay or a nay. At number 5, I Cross My Heart by George Strait. Has anyone here heard of I Cross My Heart?
Nay.
I'm not familiar.
Now, I'm surprised this showed up in my top 5. I must have been thinking about rewatching Pure Country, the greatest acting performance perhaps in the history of cinema, starring George Strait. George is a great country music singer. He is not a great actor. But that movie is cult status fame, and it's one of the songs that came from the soundtrack of Pure Country. At number 4, Good Old Boys Like Me by Don Williams.
Never heard.
Nope.
It's phenomenal. You got to listen to Good Old Boys Like Me. Here's a little context. Did you ever see the movie? Did you ever see the movie Primary Colors starring John Travolta as a fictionalized version of Bill Clinton?
No.
Mm.
Oh, it's a good movie. You should see that as well. I believe, is it Billy Bob Thornton that plays James Carville? I can't remember who plays James Carville, but it's a really interesting movie. And in the movie, they talk about some of the Clinton scandals and the Clinton conspiracies and how he sets up various accusers for destruction. It shows the rise of the Clintons, and it shows the Machiavellian conspiracy to some degree of the Clintons. And right after destroying one of his adversaries, the likable and lovable Bill Clinton, played by John Travolta, walks down a southern driveway filled with magnolias, and he hums along and sings the song, Good Old Boys Like Me. What do you do with good old boys like me? It's incredible. Check it out. That comes in at number 4. Number 3, Full Hearted Memory by George Strait.
Nope. Don't know it.
No.
Is George Strait like your guy?
All right, that's an early 80s. Yeah, but he's been my guy for so long that he goes out of my listening habits, and I was surprised. I guess I returned to him in 2025 as maybe I was reintroducing him to my sons. At number 2, Holding Her and Loving You by Earl Thomas Connolly.
I've heard that one, I feel like. Yes.
Really?
I feel like I have.
The hardest thing I'll ever do
Yes. Yeah, I have. Yep.
is Holding Her and Loving You. It's an infidelity song, but it's really good. And at number 1, Loud and Heavy, Cody Jinks.
Makes sense. We love Cody
should-
Jenks on Will Cain
We should
Country.
have him on. Yeah, we should bring him on one time.
We would love to have Cody Jinks in studio. My top genres are red dirt, southern rock, pop rap, rock, and oldies.
What is red
I don't
dirt?
listen to oldies, so they must be classifying some of this older country from the 80s.
What's
as
southern rock
oldies.
you listening to?
Red dirt country. Yeah, I don't know, Patrick. I really don't know what fits on. I don't know what pop rap I'm listening to. Maybe that's a little Kanye when I'm in the car with my sons. I don't really know what pop rap
That is.
I would be listening to.
I
don't
bet you I
know
listen to
what
way more
southern
Leonard
rock
Skinner than you
I'd be
do.
listening to.
Yeah, I listen to way more Leonard Skinner
Yeah, I
than
really-
you do, I guarantee.
Yeah, I don't think it is. I like Leonard Skinner, but I don't often put it on, when I'm driving around.
I listen to New
Could be
Country.
Jason Isbell,
I listen to Midland a lot.
New Country.
They're on my top 5.
Well, Red Dirt is country music like Cody Jinks, Turnpike Troubadours, a lot of other artists, Waylon Wyatt. I don't listen to the same kind of country that you do very often, Dan. I'm listening to something a little grittier, a little more Texas, maybe even a little more manly. But anyway, that's Red Dirt. Speaking of age, I didn't come in as the oldest. Several people that work on our show, Fran, came in at a listening age of 72. And I think one of you, somebody came in their 80s, or was it Fran that came in at 88? And I would just be very curious, what does one listen to force their listening age to
88.
come in at 88?
Lee Greenwood, she said.
Are you listening to Yeah, I would think if your listening age is 88, you're probably rocking some Beatles. You might be listening to
maybe
some
older.
Stones,
Maybe a
some
big
Janis
band.
Joplin, which is great.
Swing music.
I think the big band age is over. I don't think they're still alive.
Yeah,
the people listening to the
you're right.
big band. I even wonder if there's much of an Elvis contingent that would if you listen to a lot of Elvis, what would that bring your age in at? I'd be very curious. But check out your Wrapped, and hopefully on your Wrapped also it does also show your top podcasts of 2025, and we're hoping that it includes Will Cain Country. But age is not a distraction. Age is not a diversion. Age is actually part of the story today because much of the mainstream media is focused on the age and health of President Donald Trump. Not in small part because yesterday he conducted his 9th cabinet meeting televised of the year. All the members of President Donald Trump's cabinet sit around a conference table and give their update on the nation. The meeting lasted 3 hours, and in the meeting, there was a moment where President Trump appeared to fall asleep.
War started, it never would have happened if you'd been president. But this war is going on, and the president is trying to end it, not because, listen, we got a million things to focus on in the world as a country, but he's the only leader in the world that can help end it. And that's why even as we speak to you now, Steve Woodcock is in Moscow trying to find a way to end this war, to save lives of 8,000, 9,000 people, Mr. President, as you know, are dying every week.
President Donald Trump, if you're listening on radio, Spotify, or Apple, as Marco Rubio gives an update on the Ukrainian-Russian war, closes his eyes, and does appear to go to sleep. That is part of a narrative driven by the mainstream media, illustrated by this post from one Megan Hayes. Megan Hayes, a former communications director for President Joe Biden, tweeted a picture of Donald Trump's hand, where it appears that he has maybe some makeup over a bruised hand. And she writes, "It's an undeniable fact. Donald Trump is aging rapidly. It should concern us all." Apparently, President Trump had a medical update in the past week, visited his doctors, and there are calls to release an MRI. President Trump, we should note, is 79 years old. And he is a much different 79 than and early 80s Joe Biden. President Donald Trump is a different 79 than every other person that you know that is 79. It's not pom-pom waving. It's not cheerleading. It's not partisan politics. It's an observable fact available to every human being that President Donald Trump has an uncommon level of energy. And all the more remarkable when it's paired with an uncommon lack of sleep. President Donald Trump apparently just doesn't sleep very much, and he addresses it from time to time when asked as a curiosity. I've asked him about it in a sit-down interview, well over an hour and a half with Rachel Campos Duffy and then host of Fox and Friends, Pete Hegseth. He said, I don't know. I just don't need to sleep that much. And it is absolutely fascinating that the man can have this much energy, work these long hours, and do it on something like 3, 4, 5 hours sleep. President Trump will call, will text members of the media at the wee hours of the morning. He's seemingly never off. Even when he's on the golf course, he's making calls. I know this for a fact, to members of the media or to world leaders. This is a really rich story for the mainstream media to push today, totally invented in the same vein as the Russia collusion hoax and the Venezuelan double tap on narco-terrorist boats, which we will get into in just a moment with Fox News' Joey Jones. Why do I know this is such an invented story? Because it's one in a line of succession of invented stories that go away almost as rapidly as they appear. Where outside of this show, as in yesterday, are they still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? Dominating the headlines for a moment. The most important story in America. All of a sudden interested in pedophilia, the mainstream media has moved on from Jeffrey Epstein. And can we just take a moment? Yesterday, we interviewed Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna on the truth behind the assassination of John F. Kennedy and the truth behind Jeffrey Epstein. She told us in the course of that interview, which you should go back and listen to on Will Cain Country, that she believes after investigation and review of documents that Jeffrey Epstein was connected to intelligence. Perhaps American intelligence, perhaps Iranian intelligence, perhaps Russian intelligence, perhaps Israeli intelligence, but that he was connected to intelligence. She also told us that she believed after the declassification of documents that JFK was killed by a cabal inside the CIA interested in continuing and perpetuating and escalating the Cold War with the Soviet Union. And it benefited the military-industrial complex and at least in some part was connected to, if not complicit, connected to Vice President Lyndon Baines Johnson. She told us that. She is a sitting congresswoman. She is on the task force to declassify documents and unveil government secrets. And it's pretty shocking to me that Congresswoman Luna's statements land with somewhat of a thud. And it makes me wonder why. It could be her speaking style. She says these things, which are undoubtedly eye-opening and controversial, in very placid manner. Very matter of fact. I've often joked, I haven't perfected the part of our business of saying uncontroversial things controversially. My friend Stephen A. Smith has absolutely perfected that. He will say something, really honestly, in some occasions, with like an 80% approval rating, but he says it in a way that it sounds absolutely scandalous. I haven't perfected that, and maybe neither has Congresswoman Luna. Like, she's saying things that are incredibly jaw-dropping, and somehow it's landing with a thud, and I wonder why. Is it because nobody will talk about it? Nobody wants to talk about it? Is it because nobody believes a congresswoman who sits on the project to declassify documents and unveil government secrets? I don't know why and how we're dismissing these things, but at a minimum, at an absolute minimum, it deserves continued exploration. Right? At a minimum, it deserves follow-up questions, which I'm happy that we've done here. Who is the bodyguard you're talking about of Jeffrey Epstein? Is it Igor Zinoviev? Who is this guy in the CIA that you referenced? George Ioannidis, who ran an assassination ring that apparently has been reported on in the Washington Post. I don't know. I just find this fascinating after what we heard from Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna. But The information about Donald Trump's age is coming in part here from Megan Hayes. I told you I'd return to that. Who is Megan Hayes? Somehow this story landed with a thud when it comes to my listening ears. I didn't know this, but Megan Hayes is the Easter Bunny. She's the Easter Bunny. You know what I'm talking about? Do you remember when Joe Biden was president at the Easter egg roll and he was wanting to make his way over to the crowd and shuffling his feet and getting lost and interacting with people, and everybody was like, oh no, we can't have that? And who was he saved by? The Easter Bunny. The Easter Bunny came over and pulled him away and said, no, this way, Mr. President. And everybody's like, who's the Easter Bunny? Who's in the costume? Is it Jill Biden? Is it Ron Klain, his former chief of staff? Who's in the costume? Well, turns out it's Megan Hayes. That's who was in the costume. Staffer dressed as Easter Bunny stops Biden from answering reporters' questions. It was a reporter. The Easter Bunny stopped questioning of the President of the United States and reporters. Why? Because it was Megan Hayes, who was one of his communications directors in the press office for Joe Biden. She was in the White House. They didn't put an intern in the Easter Bunny costume. Just take a minute, okay? They didn't put an intern in the Easter Bunny costume. They didn't hire an Easter Bunny. Run them through Secret Service background checks. They said, while sitting around the White House, Megan, you be the Easter Bunny. Megan's like, I normally am coordinating, press and, the image of Joe Biden. And they're like, perfect. That's exactly what we need. In case the president ends up interacting with, little children at the Easter egg roll, or God forbid, he actually shuffles over to the press. I got you, said Megan. I got you. In between the Easter egg, I will make sure he doesn't get any questions. And here is now Megan, the Easter Bunny, questioning the health of President Donald Trump. It is absolutely rich. It is absolutely incredible. And I mean that in the literal definition of the word. Uncredible, incredible, not believable about the health of Donald Trump. Now, Donald Trump did say, like Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna, something really fascinating and controversial yesterday in talking about the story that we've talked about a lot. The fraud scandal in Minnesota. Right now, overwhelmingly tied to the Somali community in Minneapolis. Here's President Trump.
And they contribute nothing. The welfare is like 88%. They contribute nothing. I don't want them in our country, I'll be honest with you, okay? Somebody would say, oh, that's not politically correct. I don't care. I don't want them in our country. Their country's no good for a reason. Their country stinks, and we don't want them in our country. I could say that about other countries, too. I can say it about other countries, too. We don't want them to hell. We have to rebuild our country.
That's a pretty strong statement about the Somali community from President Donald Trump. Now, it got me thinking, I don't know that much about the Somali community in America. Tinfoil Pat, 2-a-days, Dan, I want to bring you in on this as well. It's pretty interesting when you think about, so the Somali community largely proliferates in America, I believe, in the 1990s after the Somali Civil War. Famously of Black Hawk Down. As long as I'm pointing everything to a movie reference, famously of Black Hawk Down.
Great movie.
Great movie. Quentin Tarantino's #1 movie of the 21st century. I don't know if you saw that. Did you guys see Quentin Tarantino's list of top 20 movies
No, but I
of
will
the
check it
21st
out.
century?
He's missing some.
Which I thought,
Of course he is.
he put Black Hawk Down as #1. And by the way, he said There Will Be Blood. This was crazy. This hit my algorithm today. He said There Will Be Blood with Daniel Day-Lewis would have been #1, but he thought Paul Dano, who plays Eli and the counterpart to Daniel Day-Lewis's character in There Will Be Blood, was weak sauce. He said he wasn't capable. I've never heard a director go after an actor like that. There must be some backstory between Tarantino and Dano, but he absolutely destroys Dano and says that pushed There Will Be Blood down from #1 to #5. But the Somali community comes to America in the 1990s after Black Hawk Down, after the Civil War, and for some inexplicable reason relocates largely to Minneapolis-St. Paul. And I say inexplicable in that it doesn't follow the path of traditional migration. It's really wild when you think about American migration. People came to America from all parts. We're largely from all parts of Europe. But they came over here and they went exactly where looks the most like where they left. Like, all the Scandinavians, all the Norwegians and the Swedes, where'd they end up? Minnesota, Montana, Wisconsin, North Dakota.
There's food
It's
and
shocking.
recipes.
You left that place to come over to this place and find something very, very similar. The most similar that you could find, right? The Scotch-Irish go to the Appalachian Mountains, which you could argue are the most similar to the Scott Highlands in America. And
Because
on and
of the
on.
same mountain range.
Dan, you brought up
Same
this
mountain
morning,
range.
Germans, Ohio.
Literally.
going back to Pangea. Going back to
Yes.
Pangea, Patrick,
Yes.
it's the same mountain range.
It's the same mountain range.
The Appalachians and the Scott Highlands are literally historically connected. And Dan, you brought that up. Yeah, I never thought about that, but Germans in Ohio, I haven't been to Ohio a lot, but I have been to some small towns, and I can see it. The Polish in Ohio, I can see it. I can see the literal like similarities in geography. How are the Somalis not in Arizona? How are they not in Arizona? How do you go from hot desert Africa to freezing cold Minneapolis?
And near the ocean.
And the answer, by the way, you know the answer. It's in no small part government. Yes, okay, job markets, meat packing. It's government. It's the Scandinavian social welfare state, the one that they're now taking advantage of, running fraud rings around, running circles around the fraud rings in Minneapolis. Resettlement programs tied to NGOs, tied to the government, resettling Somalis in the most ill-fitting place that you can possibly imagine in America. Minnesota! But would you look this up, Dan, because I really don't know the answers. How many Somalis are in America? And by the way, see, I don't know what your research tool of choice is at any given moment. I think it's ChatGPT. Would you also ask it this? So I want to know how many Somalis in America, and I would like to know where the Somali diaspora is in America. Like, is it only Minneapolis? Somebody in the Walisha watching has raised the antenna of there's actually quite a few in Maine as well. And by the way, if that's true, Maine, Somalia?
Lewiston.
That doesn't seem like a natural fit as well.
Yeah.
They have a lot of pine trees, a lot of evergreens, a lot of 30-foot tall
Trying
trees,
to
and
diversify their their land.
cold weather.
Yeah.
Okay,
As
so
far
tell me,
as-
what do we know about the Somalians in America?
So rough estimates, there's about 250 to 300,000 Somalis in the United States as of recent. And what was the other question you were asking?
I know that one. The communities.
Where?
Where are they?
Okay.
Twin Cities is a big one, obviously. Rochester, New York, I'm assuming, and
That's
then Fargo.
it's upstate.
So like North Dakota.
They're all cold areas. Those are freezing.
Yeah.
Rochester, Fargo, and Minneapolis, St. Paul?
It's under snow
I-
8 months out of the year.
And I don't know where Wilmar is, but that could have been Maine. I don't know where that is. So, yeah.
Fascinating.
That is incredible. And I think it is not totally unrelated to the larger story that we're talking about of how well what President Trump is bringing up is how well has this is the real conversation, okay? Because what President Trump is saying is something that sounds absolutely scandalous. But here's the real conversation, the one you shouldn't run from, the one that is accurate. How well has that community left behind the cultural practices of yesterday, of Somalia, and adopted the cultural practices of America? Okay? How have they left behind? Somalia ranks 179 out of 100 countries on the corruption index. How well has that been left behind in the same way the desert has been left behind? Has that been left behind in the same way that the heat has been left behind? One could argue their geographic choices are a representation of assimilation. Or one could argue that the reason they're there is because it's the greatest fertile ground not to grow crops, but to grow fraud rings when it comes to a socialist welfare state that allows any criticism to be dismissed as racism. Here's more from President Trump.
We could go one way or the other, and we're going to go the wrong way if we keep taking in garbage into our country. Ilhan Omar is garbage. She's garbage. Her friends are garbage. These aren't people that work. These aren't people that say, let's go, come on, let's make this place great. These are people that do nothing but complain. They complain. And from where they came from, they got nothing. You know, they came from paradise, and they said, this isn't paradise. But when they come from hell and they complain and do nothing but bitch, we don't want them in our country.
There's a couple things here. So President Trump is painting with a very broad brush. And what I would say is, and I don't think this is throat clearing to say, I am sure, I am positive, there are good, upstanding, moral contributors to the American society, economy, and culture among the Somalis. That does not preclude us from having judgment about the unequal contribution of various cultures to America. And if you are going to import at great numbers cultures from across the world, you cannot do it like UK while pretending all cultures are equal. You know they're not equal. Even those who proclaim the values of multiculturalism don't make choices on a day-to-day basis that live up to those proclamations. They don't live multiculturally. Just because you go to an Ethiopian restaurant once a year doesn't make you a world traveler. It doesn't make you tolerant, and it doesn't make you believe that the culture of Ethiopia is on equal par to that of Western civilization. And we need to be able to look at these cultures and judge them. I don't believe judgment is an act of hate. I believe judgment is an act of love. I believe that to my core. I believe that's what happens when a parent scolds a child, when a parent disciplines a child. You're judging behavior. You're judging actions. And then on a greater scale, deeper, when someone burns you over and over, you go away from those people because you have judged their character. Cultures are no different. We make judgments, and we should judge. We judge our children to try to correct behavior because it is an act of love. It's an act of hate to tell someone that they're never doing anything wrong, everything they do is right, and there is no good and bad. That's how you incentivize ugliness. That's how you incentivize corruption, lethargy, delusion. Judgment is an act of love, and we got to be able to judge cultures and then extrapolate and say which ones are compatible with ours, which ones assimilate, which ones might be over-indexing right now into corruption in some place like Minnesota. Before we go really quickly, there was one story that hit up in our morning call, and it's not the kind of story that would normally get my attention. I mean, it does, but sometimes I just like, okay, yes, another trans person has committed some kind of crime, and it's a gross crime. And this one's in the UK where a trans dude, you know what I mean. Someone once told me, if you want to get this right, we'll just use fake instead of trans. So a fake woman, so dude, trans woman, sexually assaulted a 13-year-old girl, right? Groped her, top and bottom. And, this dude's like, I'm not even into females. Okay, man, whatever you're into, sorry, it's not a criminal defense. But the reason this story got my attention is the mugshot. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple or watching on radio, the headline reads, Schoolgirl 13 sexually assaulted by a trans pervert who told judge he wasn't attracted to females. And I just want you to see this guy and him doing his Halloween costume. By the way, is he doing a thing in his mugshot with cross eyes, or is that for real?
I'm going to say it's for real.
God dang it. There's something about this mugshot that makes this story something that you pause. Just pause and take in where we are. For what it's worth, okay, even though all cultures aren't the same and not, on the whole, judged equally, every culture has its pros and its cons. And let me offer this today. I don't bet this is happening in Somalia. I don't bet this is happening in Saudi Arabia. I don't think those cultures are better than Western civilization, but we all have our pros and our cons. And unfortunately, here's a con that we've developed in Western civilization: the tolerance of this cross-eyed pervert committing real crimes with young girls. Drink in the mugshot. The fog of war. Does that explain the double tap on a Venezuelan narco-terrorism boat? We discussed that with Joey Jones next on Will Cain Country. Hey, you know what I love? Real American success stories. And that's exactly what you get with Brooklyn Bedding. This company started with a guy named John in Arizona. He had no degree, just good old-fashioned hustle, and he started building mattresses by hand right here in the USA. Today, they're making some of the best mattresses that you can find. And look, I'll give you my personal take. Upgrading your sleep with Brooklyn Bedding is easy. You pick your perfect mattress. It shows up at your door. You unbox it, easy box. I did this. And boom, instant upgrade. And this is what I've done as well. You go to their website and you shop. Simple choices about how you sleep because their mattresses come in different firmness levels. You can get what works for your body. So no sagging, foam, no dips, just support, real support. Plus, they handcraft every mattress in their Arizona factory. No middlemen, no gimmicks, just top-tier quality, honest pricing. If you sleep hot, they've got a cooling tech, Glacio-Tex covers, or Copperflex foam to keep you comfortable. And they're one of the few mattress brands endorsed by the American Chiropractic Association for spinal alignment and back health. They're even 100% fiberglass free. Not sure which mattress to get? Take the sleep quiz. It takes you less than 2 minutes. That's what I did. And then it'll match you with the right fit. And with a 120-night comfort trial, you can try it out, swap it, or return it if you don't love it. Go to brooklynbedding.com and use my promo code. That's just Will, W-I-L-L, at checkout. And then get this, it's 30% off, site-wide. The offer isn't available. This offer is only available here. That's brooklynbedding.com, promo code W-I-L-L, Will. And make sure you enter our show name after checkout so they know we sent you. brooklynbedding.com, promo code Will. Joey Jones, next. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. They're after him. It is Will Cain Country, streaming live at the Will Cain Country YouTube channel, the Will Cain Facebook page, but always available by following us at Spotify or on Apple. We'd love to show up on your Wrapped 2025 on Spotify. Speaking of that, I shared with you some of my top listens over the past year, and you, many of you who are watching and listening right now, have chimed in the Willisha. Carmela Canali 9900 says, I sometimes think if you listen to older music, you are somewhat stuck in the past for whatever reasons. Glory days, best days of your life. Carmela, I actually agree. I think music is nostalgia. I mean, I think there's two different qualities or types of music that fit my life. One is alone, when you're in the car. And I think what I'm often tapping into is nostalgia. Not to get too heady about this, but it's true. Like, I love something. By the way, also, stylistically, look, I just love some of this older country. I just do. But it is tapping into nostalgia. And the other is when there's newer stuff, I feel like it's more social. Like I'm in a group and we're like, have you checked this out? I really like this song. And that ties into what some are saying. Michael Knight says, listen to Whiskey Myers. Whiskey Myers is new in that it's probably in the last 10 to 15 years. And let me just say, Michael, I don't need the recommendation. Ballad of a Southern Man is probably a top 5 song for me, maybe all time. I absolutely love it by Whiskey Myers. Jay Elliott says, don't leave Waylon out, Will. Waylon is probably, like, if you ever asked me to create a list, Waylon's 1 or 2 right there with George Strait. I just freaking love Waylon Jennings. And then Ramane says, Will, my husband brought George Strait into my life. Cross My Heart was our wedding song. Oh, how sweet. Renee, send us a pic. Rita Malone says, I love your list. George Strait and Earl Thomas Conley are country gold. And then Brian Spade says, I'm 61. Most of my life I slept only 3 to 5 hours a day. It's all I need. I think I will be that way till I die. I'm not working 70 hours a week. I get bored. Find more work. I mean, I envy you, Brian. 3 to 5 hours a night. I totally agree about President Trump. It's all legit. By the way, are you guys all sleepers? 2 days in tinfoil?
6 to 8.
Right now, I wouldn't be surprised if 6. I'm in 6 to 8 too. I used to be 8. Like I used to be 8. As I get older, it's gone between 6 and 8. Mm-hmm. It's weird, man. I feel better than I used to at 6. I used to get 6 and be like, I don't feel so good today. I'm starting to feel better with a little less. And I think the sweet spot is 7.5. I just think that's the sweet spot. I wouldn't be surprised if Tinfoil said he was a 4-hour guy. Are you a 4-hour guy? I can't decide. He's either a 4-hour guy or if left to his own devices, he would sleep till 10 a.m.
He takes 20-minute micro naps.
Yes, that's what I do all day. No, I don't have time for that. No, I when did I go to sleep? Like 2 last night? Yeah, so, you know.
Do you guys, does it take
is.
you a long time to fall asleep? I know this is a very interesting conversation, but I'm curious.
Yes.
No.
You can
No, I
fall right
asleep
asleep?
quickly.
That's so annoying.
Pretty much all my life.
I'm
all my
so
life.
annoyed at you.
Yeah, very quickly.
He's
Patrick,
a terrible ENTP.
You don't take. You're so busy. We've established that.
He works
We've
about
been
12
through this
hours
on
a
the
day.
show. You're so busy.
I think I've gotten up
Yeah,
to 14
and
this
you
this
don't.
week.
And you don't take micro naps. You don't sleep much. You're the virtual President Trump of this show, which I guess stands to reason, because here's a shot from yesterday's show. If you're listening on Spotify, Apple, or on radio, here's Tinfoil Pat seemingly
Well, that wasn't
asleep
yesterday's show.
during the show.
It was a recent show.
Taking a quick
A recent show. My
nap.
hair is longer.
A recent show.
Yeah.
Recent show.
Are you sleeping?
Are
there?
you asleep in that shot, Patrick?
I could have been, yes. Sometimes we talk about politics and it just, you know,
It's like a Trump moment almost.
or we have like one of your sports takes, you know. Oof.
I mean, Patrick, did you ever watch The Wire? There was a character named Omar, and
Don't compare him to Omar.
hunted drug dealers. And no, I'm not comparing him to Omar. I'm comparing me to Omar. And Omar hunted drug dealers. And there was a saying, because all the drug dealers tried to kill Omar. Omar was a drug dealer robber, and you know, he'd walk through, and all the kids would scatter in the projects.
Omar
and
coming.
Omar had his shotgun, and he whistle as he walks. You know, and all the drug dealers took shots at Omar.
What song did he
Thing is,
whistle?
they always was it Pop Goes the Weasel? Was it
Farmer in
Pop
the
Goes
Dell.
the Weasel? Farmer in the Dell.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
you know, the drug dealers tried to assassinate Omar, and they always failed. And from that arose a saying from the show: if you come at the king, you better not miss. You've developed a habit of coming after the king, Patrick. And I have to say, I don't think you're very accurate. I think you're spraying bullets, hitting the neighborhood, and you're not taking down Omar. So I just would be careful. Just ginger. Because if I decide to come back, it's going to get ugly around here, Patrick. It's going to get ugly because you keep coming at the king. That's right. By the way, Freedom Q9L says President Trump was not asleep. I think he is frustrated with them. I don't think President Trump was frustrated with the cabinet. That was Marco Rubio giving an update on Ukraine and Russia. My mom used to say, I'm not asleep, I'm just resting my eyes.
I said it to my wife constantly. She's like, "You're asleep." I'm like, "No, just rest my eyes."
Yeah.
Maybe President Trump was just resting his eyes. Maybe so too was Tinfoil Pat. Speaking of that cabinet meeting yesterday, besides President Trump's age, another big talking point in the mainstream media is the double tap on the Venezuelan boat. The Venezuelan narco-terrorist boat that reports are had survivors. Now, the Washington Post reported that Pete Hegseth ran around the Situation Room yelling, "Kill them all." The New York Times comes out and says, well, apparently that's not true. Hegseth wasn't even around when the second strike was ordered. Admiral Bradley made that order, so the New York Times contradicts Washington Post. It's all. Here's the thing you need to remember about all this. It's all not in good faith. It's not genuine. It's not sincere. Barack Obama launched literally thousands of missiles. Okay, yes, under the AUMF. But the AUMF, like theoretically, authorization for use of military force, was Iraq and Afghanistan. My man was dropping missiles in Oman and Yemen, killing an American citizen in Yemen. And there wasn't the same type of outrage, okay? The point is, it's really about TDS. It's about getting President Trump. And there's been no bigger proxy for getting President Trump than getting Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. And they have gone after him on this narco strike. And here's what he said yesterday at that cabinet meeting in response.
We're proud to do it.
So you didn't see any survivors, to be clear, after that first strike? You personally?
I did not personally see survivors, but I stand, because the thing was on fire. It was exploded and fire and smoke. You can't see anything. You got digital. This is called the fog of war. This is what you in the press don't understand. You sit in your air-conditioned offices or up on Capitol Hill and you nitpick and you plant fake stories in the Washington Post about kill everybody, phrases on anonymous sources not based in anything, not based in any truth at all. And then you want to throw out really irresponsible terms about American heroes, about the judgment that they made. I wrote a whole book on this topic because of what politicians and the press does to warfighters.
We were to be joined by Joey Jones, a true warfighter, but as is the case often, and understandably, Joey's trapped in hunting camp. Joey's trapped in hunting camp with a poor connection and couldn't join us this morning. We're going to try to make it happen. We don't care where you come from hunting camp, come from the car. We don't care. But you got to have a connection. We've interviewed Senator John Kennedy from the car, and we'll interview you, the Willisha. Just FaceTime in. Let's figure that out. Let's get the Willisha into Will Cain country with FaceTime. Just don't come in naked.
Could be dangerous.
Don't flash your junk, but we want you in the show. I know it's dangerous two-a-days, but I want it. You know, had a dinner last night with a guy. He said, I need that back. I need you talking with the audience, debating. I need that back. And I said, you know what? I need that back as well. And on radio, that's call in. On digital, that's FaceTime. We're going to make that happen, right? That's what we're going to do. So whatever the connection, wherever you come from, you're part of Will Cain country. Would have had that today, but we didn't have the technical connection with a true warfighter, Joey Jones. But I've sat next to, on the couch, and been friends with the man you just heard from for a long time, the Secretary of War. And I have learned over time, because I did not serve in the United States military, a lot about what he's talking about right here. I'm also capable of critical thought. When you sit at a distance, when you read about war, it can all become legalistic. You can become your own mini version of a JAG officer. And in the worst case scenarios, you become a journalist. And you sit there and you armchair quarterback. And you bring up the Geneva Convention as though that's a real thing. And you bring up this legalistic maneuver, that. And it's not to say, you know, we can't be above certain practices in war. Nobody's proud of the My Lai massacre in Vietnam. It's not to say there aren't bad things that are done. But that, by its very nature, is the definition of war. Bad things done for a greater purpose. You rigorously debate. You collectively decide if your purpose is great. But once you pursue that purpose, you're far beyond the bounds of a JAG lawyer. You're far beyond the bounds of a journalist. You're far beyond the bounds of an armchair quarterback. You execute your mission with, in the case of a military, lethality. In case of you or me, you execute your mission with clarity and with purpose. And fog of war is a real thing. And I do over time, and I've come to appreciate this even more as somebody who wasn't personally involved in this. How dare we, and I'm using a royal we, okay, sit here having never even been in the situation, much less in the situation now in the moment, and go, oh, you did this right, you did this wrong. That seemed unnecessarily cruel. What do you do when the bullets are flying? What do you do when your life is in danger? What do you do when the adrenaline is flowing? What do? You hold fast to the clarity and the purpose of the mission. That's what you do. And it's not a pass. It's not a get out of jail free card for every single decision that's ever made. But when your mission now, Washington Post, is to take down President Donald Trump, is to give in to your TDS, is to go after Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. And that's clearly the mission. It's not the sincerity of ethics or morality or war. That's very clear. Where were you during the missiles raining during President Barack Obama? So when you hold fast to your mission to take down the sitting president of the United States and his Secretary of War, we're allowed to judge, in this case, with no fog of war, exactly who you are and exactly what you're here to do. These men make decisions in the moment. Some right, some wrong. Hopefully always with the clarity of purpose. But if we allow you to dictate the terms of war, well, that's how you write a recipe for 50 years of losing wars. That's how you get Vietnam. That's how you get Afghanistan. That's how you get the most powerful and greatest military on the face of the earth somehow not running an undefeated record. And by the way, we should be running away with each one of these wars. Quick, fast, decisive, done. America. But the Washington Post armchair quarterbacks every decision made to ensure that every war drags out the longest possible with the maximum number of attrition and defeat being the likeliest of outcomes. Yeah, I believe fog of war. Yeah, I believe how that was said exactly by the Secretary of War. Back to the Willisha. WWJD Word says rockabilly is pretty good. It's a genre. Sarah Jordan says to me, Will, Ella Langley on any of your lists, or is she a late 2025 discovery for you? The other day, Sarah, I was saying how much I like Ella Langley. That's a late 2025 discovery for me. Yes, that is. So she's probably
good.
didn't. I probably listened to Choosing Texas a little too much lately, so I would have thought it would have appeared because some of these on your most listened to songs for me, I'm not a big music guy, are like 4 to 7 plays. Like, that's a lot for me. Like, that would make my top.
You don't repeat songs over and over?
Of the year. Like, I have repeated Choosing Texas by Ella Langley a lot, but I thought it would have registered more than 4 to 7 times. Hey, how about this? I'm going to bring both of you guys in on this because I did not know what you were talking about this morning. I did not know. But the minute you sent this to me, Patrick, I recognized it. Franklin,
God.
the turtle from apparently Canada, the children's book, Franklin.
Yeah.
He's been memed in no small part because of the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth.
I don't know if that's AI.
If anybody's
AI.
listening on Spotify or Apple,
I'm pretty sure I saw this in a
it
library
could be
once.
just cartoon drawing.
Yeah.
Secretary of War Pete Hegseth posted this. Franklin the turtle in the children's books that if you're listening on Spotify app or radio, you can picture him. He's like stands on 2 feet, reads at the library, things like that. You remember Franklin? I didn't when they described it in the call, but now I see him. I know who he is. And there's a whole new set of memes of Franklin books, a classic Franklin story. Franklin targets narco-terrorists, and Franklin's on a helicopter shooting narco-terror
That's savage,
bullets. And
dude.
Secretary of War Hegseth posted and said, for your Christmas wish list.
That's
and apparently,
savage.
well, it gets better, though, because everybody jumped on it, right? And there's like, look at all these Franklins that people have created. Franklin finds fraud in Minnesota.
Oh, my
Sitting at a
God.
desk with Tim Waltz and Ilhan Omar
Dora,
in cuffs
no.
on him. Franklin gets a new job. This one's great.
That's Dora
Franklin's
the
in
Explorer.
a DHS, and he's arresting Dora. Yes,
No.
he's deporting Dora.
No, not Dora. We can't get rid of Dora.
Yes, we can.
Franklin defends the library. He's out in front of the public library, pushing out the rainbow hairs with drag story hour signs. And then Franklin watches Trump's Somalia rant on repeat. Is another classic Franklin story. These are really good. These are really
I
good.
shouldn't laugh.
There's some
It has
you
prompted.
can't post
It has
on
prompted.
a show. Yeah, obviously.
I
Oh, is there
shouldn't
more?
laugh.
So
Is there
go
some
to the
more?
internet for
My
more.
my liberal friends cannot watch this of me laughing just then because I'll be in a lot of trouble.
For what? The deportation of Dora by Franklin?
Yeah.
How dare you laugh?
Yeah.
Felt very serious.
Sorry, guys. I didn't mean to laugh. My
serious.
bad.
The publisher of Franklin takes it very seriously. They have put out a statement. Franklin, the turtle, is beloved. He's a Canadian icon who has inspired generations of children and stands for kindness, empathy, and inclusivity. We strongly condemn any denigration, violence, or unauthorized use of Franklin's name or image which directly contradicts these values.
Yeah, Pete.
Cool.
Yeah, Will.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, he stands for kindness, empathy, and inclusivity. Like, inclusivity, all right. That's one of those things, by the way, you don't even do that, okay? What's the name of this? Kids Can Press? You're not inclusive. You're not, guaranteed. Let me examine your life. It's such a cliched term. It's such an empty virtue signal. I'm curious how inclusive you are, Kids Can Press. Can we really dive into that? That deserves some examination. And by the way, Franklin too. Hell, you think Franklin's been inclusive? I bet I could go back through these books and find out where he hasn't included everybody. Go ahead,
He's
Tim.
friends with beavers and bears and all kinds of different animals.
Super diverse character. Yep.
Yeah.
But
He's
not
just hanging
all
out
the
with
animals. So how inclusive is he? Yeah. Oh, he doesn't hang out with his fellow turtles, so he's not inclusive of them. Frogs.
Franklin's
Does he hang out with frogs?
racist.
I don't remember a frog.
I'm gonna find it. That's right. I'm gonna find it. How about the deer? How about the alligators? Hey, how about the ones that
Frogs?
would eat Franklin? Who eats turtles? What eats turtles?
Foxes, probably.
Alligators?
Chinese people.
Foxes? Does Franklin hang with them? Does Franklin hang around the potential for turtle soup? Does Franklin hang with raccoons? Does Franklin hang with raccoons? Especially,
Raccoons?
how about this?
By the way, raccoons are the biggest predator of turtles. Number one.
Boom! Are there raccoons in the Franklin books? How about drunk raccoons? Want to know what I'm talking about? That's a real story. Drunk raccoons. And we finally know the top 12 teams most likely in the college football playoff when we come back on Will Cain Country. A half hour of college football debate. Is that what we did yesterday here on Will Cain Country? We promised not to do that again today. Actually, that's a half-hearted promise. I can't guarantee it. But I'm going to explain to Tenfold Pat and Two-A-Days Dan exactly how it works. I believe with the College Football Playoff Committee. It is Will Cain Country, streaming live at the Will Cain Country YouTube, Facebook, but always available at Spotify and Apple. But hold on. If you're not into college football, you got to hear this. This is actually my favorite story of the day. Not the cross-eyed trans pervert in the UK. Not this gentleman. That dude is a great story, and I really liked it today. Based exclusively off of his mugshot. I would love to interview everyone that knows this guy. Set aside the horrific crime, groping a 13-year-old girl. But I would also like to know friends, family. I'd like to know, like, could we get an honest conversation about, what's the dude's name? No offense. No offense. He looks like a Dan. He looks like a Dan. Dan,
That
don't you
is
think
the
that
worst
looks
thing
like
you've
a
ever
Dan?
said to me.
Like, if you're guessing that
I'm
dude's
so
name,
hurt.
I do believe that Dan is high on the list. Like, honestly, he doesn't look like a Patrick. He doesn't look like a Will. He looks like a Dan. I
be a
don't know how else
Tyler.
to explain that to you. No, he doesn't look like a Tyler. I can't explain it. You just feel it out. Patrick, do you agree? That's a Dan. I am actually to the point where I believe there's an 80% probability his name is Dan.
Is this John Goodman playing a character, and he's played a character named Dan? So if you think about it, it makes a lot of
We
sense.
need to change that. I'm going to think of something better.
Yeah. But that's not my favorite story of the day. This is my favorite story of the day, okay? If you're just joining us, you've missed nothing.
It was Ryan,
We've
by the
talked
way.
about the Venezuelan boat strikes. His name is Ryan, not Dan.
Ryan.
That's disappointing. That's disappointing.
Not
I
for
lost
me.
that bet. I was ready to put good money on Dan. We talked about the Venezuelan boat strikes. We've talked about President Trump's conspiracy of aging. We have talked about Somalians in Minneapolis, Maine, North Dakota. But this is absolutely my favorite story of the day. Okay, I'm putting the image up now here in the studios of Will Cain Country. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple, I will explain the images to you as we go. And it's not untied to the conversation we just had about Franklin and the number one predator for turtles being raccoons. I read. An inebriated raccoon was taken into custody after allegedly breaking into a Virginia liquor store on Black Friday, partaking in what officials have deemed a liquor-fueled rampage. A trail of smashed liquor bottles led police to the masked suspect, who was found passed out in a sploot position in the Ashland business's bathroom floor, according to the Hanover County Animal Protection and Shelter. In an embarrassing photo, I don't even need to give commentary on this. The writing is splendid as I continue to read from this news story on this incident. In an embarrassing photo shared by authorities, the plastered procyanid, is that what a raccoon is? A procyanid? Procyanid? Could be seen lying next to the garbage can and the toilet. The town later identified the four-legged intruder as Cole. Oh, I don't think that's a fitting name. Cole doesn't fit this drunk raccoon.
No.
Noting he needed a ride home after the wild weekend, officials said police brought the furry bandit to the animal shelter to sober up. After a few hours of sleep and zero signs of injury, other than maybe a hangover and poor life choices, he was safely released back into the wild, hopefully having learned that breaking and entering is not the answer, officials wrote in a statement. So if you're listening on radio or a podcast, here's the images I want you to these are from the cops. You've got an aisle of a liquor store just destroyed with, I would say, at least a dozen bottles. I'd say 4 or 5 of them are broken and the contents spilled out over the floor.
Is he a whiskey guy?
And then that's what I want to see. What was he drinking? That in the front, the completely demolished bottle, that's Jameson, is it not?
I believe so.
A green bottle there with the red top. And then the unopened bottle next to it is it's tequila-ish color. It's a little light for bourbon. And he's got I think that's got to be scotch in the
must be an
'cause it's
Irish
in a case.
raccoon.
The bottle's inside the case. Yeah. I don't know what else he's got down there. He's got some pints, too, because he's a cheap drinker. You know, they're not all big bottles. You notice that? He's got some pints in there. And there is a lot of liquid on the floor. Okay, then the secondary picture is literally what was described. It is the raccoon between, and we're like not a lot of space between the trash can and the toilet.
There's a picture of me like that in my 20s.
They chose the perfect word, the sploot position. He looks like he's splooted. His back legs are going the wrong way. They're going backwards, like he just, boom. His front legs are going the opposite direction as his back legs, and his chin and head is on the floor. He's passed out. My man is passed out. And like he tried to make his way to throw up into the toilet or the trash can and passed out between the two. I love this. And I think it's that picture. Because if somebody showed you that picture, you'd be like, knowing nothing else, that animal is drunk. That animal is drunk.
His name might be Ashley, actually. Looks like an Ashley on a Saturday night.
It's great. You think it's a female raccoon?
Gotta lift the tail and see.
I don't know.
Needs her friend to hold her hair back, kind of thing at the bar.
He doesn't look like a Cole to me. I don't know.
It's a Dave.
Nor is it
Could
really
be a Dave or a Ralph.
Cole. No. Ralph is in the vein of who this guy would be. He could be a Steve. I don't know.
Someone pointed out he's doing an imitation of a turtle.
Maybe he's playing the long game. See if he can get Franklin to come in and hold his hair back before he eats Franklin. Somebody on this show, I believe it was Dan, said how much he loved raccoons. And I said, how much better is this story? And how much is Cole getting away with this because of the way that raccoons look? They're not cute in their behavior. Raccoons are giant rodents. They're a nuisance.
They are. Smart.
But they get away with a lot because of the way they look. Furry, the little mask look, the furry tail. Like, if that was a possum, this story would have a much worse ending. The possum would have been disposed of. Based on looks alone. Based on looks alone, they would have disposed of that possum. And you know it. I'm trying to think what other animals get away with it because of the way they look. Back in the
Squirrels are cute.
Early 2020s, when we were doing the woke reexamination of society, wasn't there for a hot minute the indulgence of a thing like pretty privilege? Like what? Pretty privilege?
Yes.
Which, by the way, is a real thing.
It's a real thing.
Pretty privilege. It's a real thing, for sure.
Says the
I
pretty
think
boy.
raccoons benefit from... I think raccoons get away with some pretty privilege. I think they do.
Rabbits
Cute
would.
privilege, we'll call it.
Yeah, rabbits, squirrels.
Rabbits. For sure.
Essentially, if you're a rodent with like a fluffy tail, you have a much better
Yeah,
shot.
if they looked like that.
The
with
tail's huge.
Yeah, the tail's big. Yep.
Yeah.
The tail's huge. Like, do you think rats and possums
Ugh.
show up to the animal convention
Gross.
and they have like their own movement, like BLM, and they're like, all you guys are doing what we're doing, but you got fur on your tail, okay? And you're getting away with things, and we're being oppressed, and who is the oppressed animals along with the possums?
The snake.
Like, who's in that? Over on the other side, the rabbits and the raccoons, they're walking around stealing stuff,
Spiders.
knocking trash cans over, and getting away with it, right? Well, all insects. There's no beloved insect. Ladybugs? Maybe ladybugs, because ladybugs are pests. You get infestations of ladybugs. You ever had that?
But they're beautiful.
Roly-polies, potentially.
But they're pretty.
Butterflies.
Yeah. Yeah. What is a butterfly? A butterfly is nothing but a moth with pretty wings.
That's right.
Right? But when a moth comes around, you're like, get the mothballs. A butterfly comes around, you're like, ooh, land on my hand. Totally
It's
different.
my grandmother's soul
Just based on
inside
pretty
this
privilege.
Butterfly.
Right.
Yours too?
I want to develop this.
I'll work with AI on this one.
I want to, on the animal convention,
Yeah.
I want to know
I got you.
who is in the suffrage class, along with the possums and the rats.
Jesus.
And by the way, if they're legitimately guilty of worse behavior, then you're not oppressed. You're just bad, right? Like, the rat. The rat looks at the squirrel and is like, WTF, right? But to some extent, and it's about the furry tail, right?
Rats
but to
are
some
industrious.
extent, the rat is and rats are, they're super smart. Super smart. But to some extent, rats are legitimately doing worse thing than the squirrels. The squirrel will get in your attic and all that, but the rat will get in your house. Like, he'll get in the kitchen. And that's worse, right? If you're in my attic, that's one thing.
About mice?
But if you come into the sanctity of my house, it's a whole nother. Well, mice are cuter than rats. That's the problem.
But there's
we don't want the mice. We
Yeah.
don't like the mice.
Yeah.
But you know when you get it and you're relieved it's a mouse? You all know the feeling. We all do. Like, was it a mouse or was it a rat? You know, he was a mouse. You're like, whew, good. You know, because he's smaller and cuter.
They're big.
This is a thing.
I mean, New York City, I see them, they walk on your feet everywhere.
Man, those rats in New York, I'm telling you. It's something different. When you all put the trash can out, I lived there for 15
size
years.
of
When you put the
chihuahuas.
trash bag out in front of and you see the trash bag moving, I hated that so much, man. You know, on trash night,
Disgusting.
I hated it so much. You'd be walking your dog, and people pile the big black trash bags at the curb, and you'd be walking along, and the trash bag's moving, and you're like, ugh. And then you could see them darting back and forth between the brownstone and the trash bags. And
saw
you're
it
like,
this morning,
man, this is
literally.
always like this. It's terrible. Okay, let's not do this for a half hour, but let's do it for a minute. Dan, if you got it, put it up. Last night was the college football playoff rankings reveal, okay? Notre Dame, two-a-days, front-running team, seems to be safely in.
Let's go.
Notre Dame came in at, for
10.
some reason I can't even find them on your graphic. Notre Dame came in
cross
at
them.
number 10. Oh, there it is. It goes across. That's not somebody didn't think that graphic
From their
for
website.
ESPN.
So
Notre Dame came in at number 10. Oklahoma came in at number 8. Alabama came in at number 9. Went up after beating Auburn. BYU at 11, Miami at 12, Texas at 13. Here's what this most likely means, okay? If it plays out according to chalk, BYU will be out, right? They'll lose to Texas Tech in the Big 12 championship game. Texas Tech will be in, but BYU will be out. If BYU wins, then we got something different going on. That doesn't necessarily – that pushes Miami into the playoffs, and you will get one of the group of 5, which it comes down to James Madison, North Texas, and Tulane for that spot. So who's out? Well, Texas, who comes in at 13. Vanderbilt comes in at 14. Utah comes in at 15. All right. So my team is the one that is out. Somebody said this, guys, and they said it, and they predicted exactly right. They said Texas would come in at 13, and the reason why is they will do their best to keep Texas out because they have 3 losses, but put them on the edge of being in because they had all those big wins in scheduled Ohio State. So the committee was in this position of like, well, we want Texas to schedule Ohio State, so we can't like disincentivize that. So let's keep them right there on the edge so it looks like that, you know, you're rewarded for it in some way. So I texted Dan and Pat today, And here's my theory, okay? Patrick's the one that gets mad about this. Here's what we all do. This is what we all do. The committee in college football, they give us their legalistic reasons for this. Strength of schedule, strength of record, strength of victories, quality of bad losses, all these things. And we all play this game head to head. And we all play this game. And it's an impossible math equation, by the way. All these things that they say that they value, it doesn't add up, meaning they are contradictory to each other. You can never play the game and come out with a clear answer. Strength of schedule, strength, total record, total losses, best wins. You can't do it because it cross-pollinates. It hits. Like everybody says, Miami has 2 bad losses. Yeah, but Miami has a head-to-head win over Notre Dame. Why is Notre Dame over Miami? Right? So you keep playing these games. That's what I said to Dan this morning. It makes no sense that Notre Dame is above Miami. None. Miami literally beat Notre Dame. And Dan responded, 2 bad losses for Miami. What are we doing? So all these different things that go into the recipe, they can't be reconciled with one another. And we all lose our minds and pull our hair out and do this debate. But here's the truth. You remember that scene in 300 when Leonidas climbs the mountain and he goes up to the top. And there's the, what are the names of those guys? I actually put it in our group text. But they're the soothsayers, right? They're the
Ephos.
They're the guys that you got to bring them a virgin and you got to give them some things, and then they look into the rocks and they take drugs, and then they give you the answers to whether or not you should
Sounds
go
like
to
a
war with
great
Persia.
job.
And,
I might go do that.
well, in a way, that's the College Football Playoff Committee. Now, I hate to use that example because those guys were corrupt, and Patrick believes that everything is corrupt. And I don't believe it is all chalkable to corruption. I think you get a group of guys in there, and here's the God's honest truth. I think they feel it out. And then they reverse engineer it through these legalistic things that we all talk about. They just feel it. Like, we believe this team is better than this team. There's no other rationale, right? There's no other reason for some of these rankings. And it hurts. It hurts because this is the most emotional thing in American society. It's certainly the most emotional thing in sports, but it actually might even be more emotional than politics. I think so, because it's so irrational. It's so blind allegiance. It's so, like, look at Patrick. Look at the way he acts when we talk about Florida State. He acts worse about that than he does about Kamala Harris, who's very upset that Kamala lost to Trump. And you ever hear him really get mad about that? No.
I texted you a
right?
good comment, by the way,
Patrick. But you talk about Florida State all the time. I joke. He didn't like Kamala. But if I compare his reactions from 2020 to Trump losing to Florida State being held out of the playoff, I can promise you it's more emotional for the Seminoles. And it's like being rejected by a girl. When you're told we don't like you, we felt it out, and we don't like you, it hurts.
You hurt?
By the way, my team is getting that right now, Patrick. My team has been judged, we don't feel good about you. And it's just not more complicated than that. That's all there is to it, okay? They feel it. They're the soothsayers on the mountain. They decide who should be in. There's no deserves, right? Texas deserves to be in. I believe by any legalistic argument, Texas, I believe on the level of who is the best team right now in the country, who are the top 12 teams right now, Texas would get in. You don't even like me saying that. That's how emotional you are.
I'm not emotional about it.
But I believe that.
Everyone has their subjective opinions, and what they do is they have what they want to see. Michael Malice talks about this. They have what they want, and then they rationalize it backwards. And so you go, we're the most deserving. You have 3 losses.
Yes, I
You've
agree.
lost a quarter of your games. You don't deserve it, and that's not how it should be. Like it should be like if we're going to have a playoff, we should do it as close to the NFL as possible, where we understand the criteria completely.
And Texas got friend zoned.
But Patrick, you and I don't agree. I mean, you and I don't disagree. I agree on your analysis of this and what Malice says. You saying, you lost 3 games, for some reason that makes you feel more, but it's subjective, than me saying we have the best wins in the country. In the country, we have the best wins. And that seems to be an objective fact. We have 3, at the time, top 10, now top 15 victories. And I don't know, should you value wins or should you value losses? Well, I don't want to have that debate because it's the same thing as strength of schedule, strength of record, all these other things. It just gets complicated, convoluted, all that stuff. Now we're in the legalistic argument. And I'm telling you, none of it matters. None of it matters. They feel it out. And here's how I think they feel it. This is my biggest point that I believe. How do they feel it? By measuring what you've done against their expectations. That's it. Let's stick with Texas, okay? Texas is punished for losing to Florida. And they should be, because everybody expected Texas to beat Florida. Florida's not good, right? We all know that. And Texas lost to them. And so that emotionally impacts us heavily. I would argue more than beating A&M, more than beating OU, and more than beating Vanderbilt combined. Why? Because while Texas might not have been expected to win those games, it was close. It was close. And so it doesn't have the emotional impact of losing a game that everybody thinks you absolutely should have won. This is the analogy I gave you guys, and I believe this is how the world works, not just college football. If somebody says to you, this is the best movie of the year, it's incredible, I think there's a decent chance you walk out of that movie going, eh. But if somebody told you, we're going to dinner, and this restaurant's okay, I can't vouch for it, but it was the only place that we could get reservations, I think there's a high chance that you and the entire group walk out going, that was pretty good. Yeah, I agree. That was good meal.
Which is such BS.
You're measuring, but if I had said to you, this is the best restaurant in town,
stupid.
It's amazing. And I have a feeling we'd all walk out, or you might go, and when I walked away, you two would go, hey, what'd you think about that meal? Like, it was all right. Yeah, he said it was the best meal in town. I know. And because you'd be measuring it against the
Subjective
expectations that I set for you. Based against expectations. Subjective opinions measured against subjective expectations. That's what I think we're dealing with the soothsayers on the mountain picking the best 12 teams in football. Your response quickly, fellas.
You go ahead, Dan.
No, you go first.
I don't think sports is not supposed to be this subjective. The whole purpose of sports is that we have objectivity to it. We know when a team plays each other, because you can look at paper anytime and go, well, this team is going to beat this team, and you played on the field, and you're supposed to have objectivity to it, and it's not supposed to be like figure skating, and that's what it's become. And I know that, hey, we've had polls to determine the winners before, but it's like when you have a bigger subset of people choosing the teams, you get better results.
What other way is there to do it?
No. This is the argument that Patrick has made to us for everybody listening, that the old way of doing things is better. And it's patently absurd. It's an absurd opinion. The AP voting on the national champion was absurd. A bunch of sports writers, because there's a lot of them, get to vote on the national championship. They don't even play the game. That's absurd. Talk about figure skating. Now we're debating the 10th, 11th, 12th, and 13th team in the country. That's what we're debating. And they're going to end up playing a playoff, and your national champion will win it out. Now, granted you, Dan, you said this. There's more parity than ever in college football. Mm-hmm. So it does matter more than it used to. But I'll say this. Okay, I think Texas should be in the playoff ahead of Notre Dame and Miami.
Fascinating.
However, I'm going to ask you this. Do you think Notre Dame can win the national championship?
I think they have a shot. I think that there's no...
I think it's a low probability.
I think there's no
very low probability.
There's no Alabama, Georgia of 8 years ago where there's no shot they can't, beat any of those teams in the top 12. So I think
the odds are very low that they beat a Georgia or an Ohio State or both, depending on their path. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I think the odds are very low. And I think the same for Miami. Okay? By the way, I think the same for Texas. So my point is the impact on that debate. By the way, I think they all could win a game, maybe 2 games, but I don't think they're going to win enough to win the national championship. And so the consequences of this debate are way less. This is a good world we live in right now.
Yeah.
And Patrick, if we expanded it to 16, which I'm in favor of, by the way. No bias. Expand to 16, you'd be the same grumpy old dude debating who's 15, 16, 17, and 18.
We shouldn't be debating this. There are always like the most you have is maybe 4 good teams in a year. We should never have had the playoff. The BCS system was better than this.
Why?
No, playoffs better. I disagree.
The playoff sucks. You guys hate college football. That was what college football was. If you want playoffs, go to the NFL.
It makes insignificant bowl games to watch. It's so stupid.
Nobody watched all those bowl games.
Exactly. It doesn't matter. This is interesting. So
I
would want to watch a bracket of teams play.
We have number 1 playing number 2 this weekend, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who
will
wins.
in the playoff.
It won't. It doesn't. Nobody cares about the regular season. It used to matter. The regular season used to matter in college football, and it doesn't matter anymore.
It still does. That's a dumb argument. It still does. It clearly just left Texas out of the playoff. The Florida game clearly meant a lot. That was like
when you lose 3.
What was that, in September, October?
I like the idea of anybody could get in there. Like Texas Tech could get in there and play OSU or something for the championship. I want to see.
All right, how about this? Tomorrow here on Will Cain Country, because I just did more time on this than I thought I would do today. We'll do this. We'll take the playoff field, and we'll ask ourselves legitimately, could this team win the national championship? And we'll come up with our answer. How many actually could win the national championship? We'll leave you with this from the Willisha. Baracho Bama says, the selection committee is a fancy way of saying some dude said. I think that's right. That's going to do it for us today here on Will Cain Country. We hope you'll be back again with us tomorrow, same time, same place, same platform. I'll see you next time.